Hello. Okay, Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, the prequel to Mad Max Fury Road, a movie that I absolutely adored and that I personally consider as being one of the best action movies ever made. So I've been really looking forward to Furiosa, once again written and directed by George Miller. It's the origin story of the character Furiosa that was brought to life by Charlize Theron within Fury Road. And yeah, I've been just really looking forward to this film. I went to watch it at an advanced screening last night. I managed to secure tickets to an advanced showing with the Empire VIP Club. That's how much I was looking forward to it. I travelled 2.5 hours to get to London to check this film out. And so yeah, does it match or even surpass Fury Road in what I, like I just said, regard as being one of the greatest action movies ever made? So let's talk about the action within this film. Just like Fury Road, it is absolutely amazing. It's fun, it's immersive, it's intense. It's just, the action scenes are incredible. You could sense the love and passion behind the scenes when it comes to bringing these moments to life. The craftsmanship, you could just sense the the talent when it comes to the craftsmanship in bringing the action and just bringing this world to life in general. You could just sense it, and as a result becomes a very immersive experience. The action scenes in this movie, there's this one which for me really stood out. It's quite a lengthy scene and it's with this big tanker. They call it the War Rig, and I think they've just released a clip of it online actually, of a moment within this action scene. And just the way in which that scene plays out. George Miller is absolutely fantastic at sort of creating this momentum within these moments that just really like I said, get that blood pumping. They're so damn exciting and fun. And yeah, the action, just like in Fury Road, does everything an action scene should do, and it was a lot of fun. And just going back to the the world building there, yeah, it's just, they do such an amazing job at bringing this desert wasteland to life. Like, you feel like you're there with these characters. There are some beautiful shots and moments with these characters within this world. And just like Fury Road, I mean, yeah, it kind of just really I just found it to be quite captivating and mesmerising to watch at times due to how this world is brought to life. And I felt like with this one, more than Fury Road, I felt like George Miller liked to linger a little bit more on these moments with these characters within this world. Like, you'd also, you'd get a certain moment and you would it would linger on this moment perhaps longer than it should have. But then I ended up really appreciating that, because it's in those moments where I felt like it was really just sucking me in and immersing me into this world. And I felt like George Miller, perhaps I'm wrong, perhaps it's just my own personal opinion here or perspective, but it felt like he was really trying his hardest here with this movie to just get us, sucked into this world and just really feel the brutality of it and the grit of it. And yeah, I think he did a good job at that. I mean, yeah, like I said, the world building here and just how the characters and every aspect from a technical perspective when it comes to the costume design, the makeup, is just absolutely wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful to just see an actual, person on this chariot being led by motorcycles through the desert. Like, you believe, because it's there, they're actually doing it. These people are on the set and they're actually doing these stunts, and as a result it just adds to the immersion. And yeah, there's some really thrilling moments within this movie with these characters, and I just appreciate the craftsmanship and how these moments were brought to life. Tom Holkenborg composes the music for this movie again. He did with Fury Road, and I'm not a massive fan of Tom Holkenborg, but I feel like his music, his style, when it comes to, scoring music for movies, I think it works beautifully for this type of film. And I just feel like it's his music within this movie that really sort of amplifies a lot of the fun, intense moments within the sort of the action scenes, as well as sort of kind of like sort of the more darker, intense character moments as well. It's almost like his score within this movie is this kind of heartbeat. It's almost like a rhythm that's kind of constantly there, running through the film. It's almost like the blood in this movie's veins in a way, where it's always there, sort of just, you know, going, like humming under all of these moments, like, you know, kind of like that. And I just love it because it sort of adds this other layer to the movie. It adds this other layer to the experience. It's almost kind of gives it this sort of, the film or this experience, this kind of organic feeling where it's alive. And when you get these moments, you know, as these characters' stories evolve throughout the film, sort of the music sort of kind of evolves with it and becomes a hell of a lot more intense. So yeah, I love the score by Tom Holkenborg for Mad Max. I feel like I said, I'm not a massive fan of him as a composer, but I feel like his music fits this world. His style of composing music fits this world beautifully. Anya Taylor-Joy as Furiosa does a superb job here at bringing this character to life that was brought to life wonderfully by Charlize Theron in Fury Road. She does a good job at sort of really conveying sort of how vulnerable and fractured this character is, but also like this kind of hardness that's instilled within her. It feels natural. The performance feels real. I just feel like she does a great job at allowing me anyway as a viewer to sort of really buy into what this character is going through and experiencing. Anya Taylor-Joy is fantastic. But also, there's an actress that plays an even younger version of this character within this movie. And I believe her name is Alyla. It's Alyla Browne. Apologies if I pronounced that incorrectly. And she plays the younger version of this character. And she was also incredible within this film. For a child actor, does a really good job immediately at sort of immersing you into the story, down to the way in which she brings his character to life. Chris Hemsworth as the villain, Dementus, this warlord of this biker horde. He's also great. I really enjoyed him in this role. But also, it's his character and sort of how his character is kind of... So how his character is portrayed within the film and how it's sort of the writing behind the character is what's going to start leading me now into some of the negatives that I did have with this film. And what I will say, I was very compelled and intrigued by Dementus, who, like I said, was played wonderfully by Chris Hemsworth. And even though you kind of get hints of this villain's past, which is tinged in sadness and it's quite tragic, you know, it's there, it's touched upon, I couldn't help but feel that Dementus still just really came across as a very one-dimensional villain to me. And unfortunately, I feel like that's just how the way the character seemed to be sort of just it was nothing to do with Chris Hemsworth's performance, but just sort of how the character was written and sort of how he was how his story played out through the film. And it kind of really lacked the depth I felt and that kind of emotional weight that I needed for the film to have that kind of, to have the emotional impact I felt like it needed, like Fury Road did. I just felt like, you know, with Fury Road it had that kind of hook where you want to get to the end with these characters on this journey. With this one, it kind of lacked that kind of emotional hook when it came to these characters. It's a revenge film, and I love a revenge film, but like I said, when it comes to these characters like Dementus and his involvement with the character of Furiosa, I just felt like I needed a little bit more depth behind the character for it to have had more impact. And so, seeing as we're on sort of the negatives now, sort of the gripes that I had with this movie, I feel like when it comes to Fury Road, the movie did a great job at having this momentum and this energy to it that just kept building and building and building and building. With Furiosa, I feel like the first act in particular, sort of, it's kind of clunky and sort of, even though George Miller does a great job at immersing you into this world and reintroducing you to these characters, there's almost a clunkiness to that first act. And it's almost like, the only way I can describe it is like when you're trying to start up a car and it fails to start. And it's like, you know, when it makes that noise, and it's like, oh, we're going to go somewhere, and then it stops. And then that's how it kind of felt. And it's a minor gripe, because I was just enjoying being wrapped up, you know, within this world with these characters again. So I was locked in, but I could just sense that kind of clankiness, sort of, to the fact that you could tell they were trying to inject the same energy that Fury Road had. And it does start. I mean, that momentum and that energy, once it gets going, it gets going. And it's absolutely fantastic. And it is an absolute thrill ride. But I do feel like it struggles within its first few moments, this first act of the movie, to get going. There is also a slight messiness to the narrative, sort of how you kind of sort of witness the character of Furiosa sort of evolve through the story, and sort of how it catapults us from her being this little girl to sort of how she ends up sort of leading into Fury Road. And there is a slight messiness to that, and there's a part of me that felt like we had moments missing when it came to the character, and with sort of her and certain interactions with other characters, like Immortan Joe, for example, and all of that. And so just sort of how her character evolves at times felt like it was just a little bit messy. And so, you know, this is going to sound like a little bit of an odd one, because there's an aspect of this movie that I really like that actually plays into one of the negatives for me, and that is, I love the world building, and I love sort of how George Miller sort of really focuses in on these characters within this world, and in the sort of, you know, gets us to sort of really be immersed within this world. I really appreciated that, and I feel like it's done quite heavily within the first act of this movie. But it also sort of affects the momentum and the energy, and sort of how that kind of narrative really sort of flows, especially through that first act. And as a result, when you compare it to Fury Road was a very lean, mean experience, and Furiosa doesn't quite achieve that. I feel like it needed to be a little bit more streamlined and leaner with this journey, with this experience. It is kind of there, and like I said, it really kind of picks up within that second and third act. And, you know, once it gets going, you're there. It's fun, it's intense, it's thrilling. But there is a clankiness within that first act that kind of, as a result, sort of kind of lingers there perhaps for the rest of the movie, due to the fact that it fails to get going. And I just feel like it needed to be a little bit more focused with its characters, their journeys, to give it that kind of emotional hook that I felt like it needed. So yeah, it's a bit of a weird one for me. So, you know, one of the positives actually plays into one of the negatives for me, and so it didn't massively affect the overall experience. You know, I was compelled, I was intrigued, I was immersed, and I was having fun. So another negative that I have was the overuse of CGI. Now, don't get me wrong, there's definitely, without a doubt, a lot of, you know, actors on sets. You know, you've got these bikes riding through this desert. You know, it's there, it's real, and you can sense that. But yeah, for me personally, there was, I mean, perhaps it might have been the colour palette even, because I felt like the colour palette was different to what it was in Fury Road. But everything sort of, there was a lot of moments that kind of had that green screen look to it. And so when it came to sort of the effects, the CGI, there are a lot of moments that just didn't quite work for me, and it stood out. And I felt like there was definitely an overuse of perhaps CGI in this movie. Like, don't get me wrong, Fury Road has, you know, got quite a bit of CGI in that as well. But yeah, when you get it, it was just a little bit more evident, and I don't know if a lot of that was just down to the colour palette as well. And so it just, that's right, sort of just going back to that kind of grittiness and the groundedness of the film. I just feel like the effects and sort of how they were utilised within the movie really kind of affected the effectiveness really of it. But again, it's just down to how these characters are brought to life, and how the world is brought to life, and just sort of these moments in which these characters are sort of put in when it comes to the action. I just couldn't help but be immersed. I was intrigued. I was having fun. It was thrilling, because it's a character that I fell in love with in Fury Road. And what this film does a really good job at doing is really kind of adding this extra weight and depth to Fury Road. I mean, you watch Furiosa, then going into Fury Road, it will, I feel like anyway, personally, sort of really add a hell of a lot more to that experience, to what is already a great experience. And so, yeah, so to answer the question that I started the review out with, you know, does Furiosa match or surpass Fury Road? For me personally, unfortunately, it doesn't. It does a lot to add to sort of the world building and sort of just the mythology and all of that when it comes to the world of Mad Max and sort of these characters. It does a lot to kind of really kind of add sort of to the richness of this world. And like I said, it really, I feel like anyway, it's going to add a lot more to that experience of Fury Road. You know, I hate comparing it to Fury Road. At the end of the day, that's his own thing. And this is trying to tell us, it's trying to give us this big epic story of this character. And sort of the pain that she goes through and sort of what it is she has to go through to get to where she is. Enough rambling on from me. I highly recommend Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga. And I will be giving Furiosa a 7.5 out of 10. So yeah, they are my thoughts on Furiosa. But what do you guys think? When you check it out, let me know. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Do you agree or disagree with anything I've said? Then let me know in the comments below and let's get a discussion going. And if you've made it this far into the video, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And if you want to watch future reviews from just some random Welsh geek rambling on, then please hit the subscribe button. It will mean an awful lot to me. And a big thank you to all those that have subscribed to me recently over the last couple of weeks. It means an awful lot. I'm hoping to hit 500 by the end of the year. And yeah, I really appreciate it. So yeah, thanks again for watching, and I'll be catching you guys soon.